recording my homily for Palm Sunday of 2020. And on Palm Sunday, we read the Passion. So there's 2 days out of the year where we read the Passion, Palm Sunday, and then we read it from a different gospel on Good Friday at the Veneration of the Cross. And I was just thinking about it because Palm Sunday is unique because we actually read the gospel twice. We read it in the procession when we enter into Mass, when we get the palms and we do the blessing. And so we read the gospel of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. But I was praying about it this last week, the day before Sunday. I couldn't help but feel, and maybe this is me projecting onto Jesus, but I couldn't help but feel, at least in some way, that when he entered into Jerusalem triumphantly, he knew it was superficial. He knew it was fake. It wasn't real. It wasn't a real victory. That Jerusalem as a city itself, yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's a center of the Old Testament, the Old Covenants, and for us as Christians too, it's a very important. But I couldn't help but feel that that was not really victory for him. It was only a prelude to the war that was coming. That this week of darkness, it was a prelude to this week of darkness where humanity, all of us, working in union with the evil one, would plot, would plan how to kill God, how to kill Jesus, right? I want to talk a little bit just about that. So, a little while back, maybe I already shared this in one of my homilies, I was eating lunch, and part of my lunch is always to eat an apple, or almost always, is to eat an apple, and I love Fuji apples. So I thought, I'm going to plant a Fuji apple tree. So I ate an apple one day, and before that I had gone to Home Depot, and I had bought one of these little kits to plant seeds, right? And it was for flowers, but I just threw away those seeds. But I took the seeds out of the apple, and I planted 6 of them. There were 6 little containers. And all 6 of them came up. I have 6 little apple trees growing up. And I was just so proud of myself because I'm not very good at planting things. And I was telling somebody in our parish about that the other day. And he's an expert. He does that stuff professionally for... So he knows what he's doing. And as I'm telling him the story, and I'm so proud of these little apple trees that I have growing, he starts kind of chuckling. And he says, Father, those aren't Fuji apples trees. And I was like, well, yeah, I ate a Fuji apple. I took the seeds out of it and I planted it. And he said, no, those are probably crab apple trees. And I was like, what? He says, yeah. He says, when they pollinate these apple trees, when they pollinate them every year, they don't use Fuji apple trees to pollinate them. They pollinate them from pollen from crab apple trees. And so he says, I'm so sorry, Father, but I'm just saving you 10 years of down the line, you having these trees grow up and they come up with crab apples. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe that. To me, it's a symbol, if you will, of somebody who had taken their life, if you consider it a seed, and planted it and had it grow up, and 10 years later discovered that their affections, their desires, everything that they had valued was actually wrong. Like a crabapple tree, right? Nobody wants crab apples. And so I think it would be like someone who looked upon their Christian faith incorrectly and saw that victory of Jesus' triumphal entry as real victory. And looked at the world and looked for this superficial victory throughout their lives, only one day, 10 years, 20 years down the line, to realize that that's not actually what Jesus desires for them. It was fake. There was a news article the other day where it was talking about how all these Hollywood stars are are posting things from their home, from their isolation, and they're coming to the realization in some ways that people just really don't care about them. Because it's superficial. The love for the Hollywood stardom and popularity is superficial. And so when the focus of humanity becomes on something really serious, really important, like the old coronavirus thing, they don't care about these Hollywood stars. Their fame and fortune is superficial. And so is that triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And Jesus would have known that, right? He wouldn't have come into Jerusalem thinking, yeah, this is awesome, Christian faith is going to be hip and popular, right? That's why I always get really nervous, really agitated when somebody wants to take our faith and try to make it acceptable to the wider world by making it hip and popular by music. And it's like, no, man, that's not what Jesus wanted. That superficiality is not where the real victory is. So then we enter into the Passion, and we go into the garden where the seed is planted, where the real seed is planted. Jesus Christ is planted, right? And he's in that place where he's just completely stripped of everything. And he even says, Lord, take this chalice from me, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. It's a moment of absolute humility. He's showing us the path of true victory lies in absolute humility, that it's actually in our own weakness, in our own being broken down into nothing that we find victory. The disciples in that garden were not ready to accept that. That's why they ran away. But they would come back one day and be ready for that. It's interesting, a lot of the famous stories and movies that have come out, and the stories that I'm going to use as examples here are usually applied to young men or young people, right? So the stories of Star Wars, the stories of the Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, the Avengers with the arch villain Thanos. In every one of them, in every one of those stories, the heroes, the good people, they all had to lose just about everything in order to achieve victory. They all had to be humbled. It's almost like that model, that there's truth intrinsic in that model. And that any other model is a deception, is a lie. That goodness is victorious in humility, in being broken down to nothing. And Jesus in his passion shows us that. He beckons us to follow him in that. I've been recording confirmation classes, so one of the reasons why I had not been recording my homilies every day, at least that's my excuse, is because last week I was recording a whole bunch of sessions for confirmation in RCIA class. And I've actually put them on YouTube, but I have a separate YouTube channel for them. It's called, I don't even know the name of the YouTube channel, Father Peter's Class, or Class of Father Peter, or something like that. I'll try to remember to provide a link on this video. I forgot on Saturday or whatever day I did my last video. I said I was going to do it and I forgot. All right, anyways, so I've been teaching the class on the sacraments. As I'm going through the sacraments, there's a point where I realize that it's like there's this fundamental question to say, why did Jesus give us the sacraments? What is their purpose, right? What is the purpose of the sacraments? To transform us, right? Jesus didn't create the sacraments for us to serve the sacraments. He created the sacraments for us, right? The reason that we have the expectations that you go to Mass every single Sunday is not that you're somehow serving or honoring the Mass, but that the Mass is honoring you. The Mass is serving you. The Mass is transforming you. So what is the purpose of sacraments? It's to transform us. It is to enable us to become something more than we would ever be without them. Now, in accepting that grace, there's going to be a time for every single one of us where we are going to be broken down. Jesus is going to allow that to happen. He's going to break us down. No, he's not going to break us down, but he's going to allow us to be broken down so that in persevering, in carrying that burden of grace, that looks like a cross, right? Carrying that burden of grace, and in persevering in that, we bring about the glory of God. I think that's why humility is demanded of us. And all our heroes, all the saints, is for God's glory. He brings about a greater victory. A victory that's not petty, self-centered, that's not rooted in popularity or fame. But it's something that serves. It's something that creates. It's the seed that's planted. It's first planted in that garden. Jesus is in the garden, right? Or you could go back to Adam and Eve in the garden and the tree of life, right? Same seed being planted to bring about new life, to bring about the glory of God, right? So this week is beautiful. Break us down so we can be seeds planted. All right. God bless you. And hopefully I can record my daily Mass homilies. All right. Take care.